So the idea for Hilts came up, was Paul Nicholas's idea, one of the co-founders of Hilts. He was a watch fan and was thinking about an e-commerce product that he wanted to do online. And his thought was that why not do watches? And then he spoke with Stephen Scott, our other co-founder, and they kind of threw around this idea pre-COVID about building out a watch company and how they wanted to build it. And then COVID hit, and then the discussions really heated up. And eventually, Paul reached out to me and said, "Hey, Stephen and I have been talking about this thought of like starting a watch brand, and here's some ideas around it. And we think we can do a Kickstarter for it, and we've done some research and feel that if we build something quality, we could really have something special on our hands." And so that's where the original idea for Hilts came from. So the idea was always we wanted to build something quality and something that we would be very proud of wearing. So the first thought was, what kind of a brand do we want? What's going to be the name of the company? Stephen eventually, during COVID, was kind of thinking of what the names, and as Paul and I were too. And then his father had passed away during COVID, and his father was a big Steve McQueen fan, and his favorite movie was The Great Escape. Steve McQueen's character's last name in the movie, The Great Escape, was Hilts. And Steve McQueen also made that movie Bullet, where he drove around a Mustang, and and so Steven thought, well, why don't we think of the name Hilts? And it was a way to honor his father, but also that era of when movie stars were also becoming race car drivers, like Paul Newman and Steve McQueen, also known as the Cooler King. And that was where the name came from. And I liked it immediately when Steven told us about it. And that's where the whole idea of the racing theme started burgeoning. Like, we started thinking about that as well. And I thought, this would be a cool concept to build out some watches that had a nice story behind each watch, and become a really nice part of the brand. When it came to designing the watches, and this idea that was, in our heads, that we wanted it to have some kind of a racing theme to it, we started this process where Steven started coming up with all these different designs. And then what we did was we threw it out to friends and family in a Facebook group, and just really dwindled down the designs down to a handful. And it was really the chronographs that were really catching on with everyone that was looking at the watches, which was perfect for us because it was a perfect racing style watch as well. And so the whole idea behind the design started coming up as, well, we want something elegant, but also capture that 1960s era of, cool 1960s racing cars, and how do we go about, designing that in a very modern way, but with a really elegant feel and with a nice story behind the watch. And so that's where we really started developing out the stories behind each watch, and the reason why we have a British Racing Green and the Gurney and things of that nature, the Atwood. And so that's where the whole idea of what we wanted to build out, and then also looking for the proper manufacturer. And that took some time. We started this process almost 3 years ago. And the challenge there was, every manufacturer we spoke to, they're like, well, we can do a cheaper version of it, so it'll cost less and you can charge less. And, but we saw the quality of it. And initially these watches, we thought, well, let's make watches that we would really like, that we would like to wear. And everything we were seeing was not something that we'd even want to wear. So why would we try to sell them to anybody else? And then eventually Paul was able to locate a manufacturer in the United States. And, they got it. They understood exactly what we wanted. And so they produced the samples for us. And I remember going into their offices to pick up the samples. And he gave us, they gave us a really nice compliment when they said, whoever designed these watches has a real eye for design, because there's small little things in here only a designer would know. what to put in. So real nice designer's touch on certain elements of the watch, and we really like the way they look, and they look like quality watches, which was very important for us. And we knew we were going to get that from them when we initially engaged with them, and they understood exactly what we wanted. So we're very proud of what we've designed, and really looking forward to getting these into everybody's hands. The future of Hilts. When we initially started the design work, as I mentioned earlier, we got our local community involved, meaning our friends and family. And we really wanted their feedback on the types of watches they liked and the types of designs that we were putting out there. And so the future for us is really building out a broader community, the Hilts community. So as we get more and more buyers and more people into our community, we're going to always be looking for their feedback when it comes to future designs, and how the company should be built out, and the way we really want to be engaged by them, and we want to engage them in building out and designing future watches, and being able to give them what they're looking for. I mean, some of the traditional brands like Rolex and a few others, if you walk into their store, first of all, you're on years on a waiting list to get a watch you want, and they're going to want you to buy all these other watches that you're not going to want, and eventually they'll sell you the one you really do want. But that's, to me, that's almost like the watch company saying, oh, it's a privilege for you to walk into our shop to buy our watch. We look at it the other way. It's a privilege for us, for you guys, to spend your hard-earned money and to buy our watch, because the moment we see somebody wearing one of our watches while we're walking down the street or on an airplane or at a restaurant, it's going to be such a moment of joy for us. So the future of Hilts is our buyers, is our community, is the way we continue to give great customer service to our user base, and at the end of the day, give them the watches they're looking for and the watches they want.